Okay, starting another video. Now this you see is something I got online, a picture of hydrogen wave function. I was just looking at this one day and I realized that these little patterns look very much like what I get in my orbs when I take pictures of orbs. And I don't know if anyone has ever seen hydrogen with any kind of instrument. I think these are artist renditions of what they think it looks like, because when I go to Google Images I don't see any actual pictures of what that they've taken that shows the hydrogen wave function. But their guesses are very good. They can pretty much imagine through their studies how it would look. And I think they're pretty right on here because of some of the pictures I've taken that look real much like this. Because in my orb pictures I may be getting pictures of hydrogen. They had this one, and this was an animation. It was one of their samples of how it looks. And they had a light behind it that changes colors and goes round and round with red and blue and green and yellow and pink and whatever. And in that they are correct, because when I look at these with through my camera's lens, they change colors. When I snap a picture of them, the picture will have several colors in this. So in that they're correct. Here's an example of one that I took a picture of. One of these hydrogen wave actions you see right there. That's possibly what that could be. I'm always researching. When I see something and I see it over and over again in these orb pictures, I start thinking I would like to know what this could be, so I listen to videos of particle physicists and different ones, you know, who talk about the really tiny things. And there seems to be one here. It's kind of really light. You can't hardly see the divisions, but it looks like 4 around 1, and that was how one of them looked. And then I get things like this that are just a circle. Well, they do look like they also have maybe 4 spots of light around 1 in the center. And sometimes it's just 2 of them that seem to be together instead of one with 4 in it. Now this is a picture I took off of a channel that I went to because they were talking about subatomic particles, which is what I think I'm seeing. And this is their artist rendition of what self-propelling subatomic particles might look like. And this is how they move in this pattern. And I think they could be very right about that, because let me show you some of the pictures I have that show this interweaving of the colors. You did have a real good example, but I didn't get it in this batch. But you see how these could be subatomic particles weaving in a way to self-propel, because everything moves. I learned that from the Kabbalion. Nothing rests, everything moves. And there's another good example of it. Self-propelling particles. There's some more. And look at this one, it's making a different pattern. It's kind of going out and twirling around on the edges of it. Here's some more pictures of it. And this is a good one to show what that looks like. See? It looks just exactly like some of those patterns in that sample I showed you. Now, this is a different subject. These are the little curved line balls. Now I see these little balls in a lot of ways. You see the 2 lines right there that seem to almost meet, but they don't quite touch. And each one, if you could see the complete one, it goes and makes a little ball But once they get into an orb, they stretch and twist and distort themselves. But you can still tell that these started out being those little curved line balls, which I will show you. Let me see right here. I think I actually caught a picture of the birthing of these little balls out of an orb. It looks like a cocoon for all that you could say, because see, you can see what's inside of it, and you see one emerging out of it. I don't think I have that turned right enough. There you go. And these are those little curved line balls. I see them in many other orbs. And you see here's two in this bigger orb, because their size can change. They can get real big and take up the whole orb, or they can be several small ones in the orb. And there's one that has them in it. And there's another. I didn't take the time to look up all of the ones that I have that have these little lines like this in it, but I have maybe hundreds of pictures of this sort of thing. Okay, I'm going to get back on that subject, but for right now, since this picture is popping up right now, I took a picture off of the computer of someone had put this called Thunder Energies, and they say they have a lens that detects invisible entities. And this is one of the looks of what these invisible entities look like. Now, I've never gotten this picture in the orbs to look quite like this, but I have seen many other people, their videos that they post, they get this a lot, especially those that are taking pictures outside of the sky. They get this quite a lot. But what I didn't like about this Thunder Energies was that they were claiming that these things were dark entities, that these invisible entities were almost, you would say, demonic, because they hovered over military bases and they were up to no good. Something to that effect. Anyway, I didn't much like that, because that was just their opinion based on their fear, and I don't see it that way. This is another picture they got, and I do have friends that take pictures. I'll have to post some of their pictures sometimes, who get pictures just like this, especially this one person who gets pictures at Stonehenge. He gets a lot of images similar to this. I'll put one of his videos in the description bar, or else in a comment, so you see this. This is another one of the dark characters that this negative energy they say they took pictures of, and this is really not all that great a picture, nor is that one, nor that one, because I get this sort of thing only much more detail in my pictures of orbs that are real similar to what they're getting. As a matter of fact, and this is another one of theirs, as a matter of fact, I sent one of my videos to them because they said they answer all questions that are sent to them. So I sent them my videos that show real similar things, and they did answer me, but all they said was, we don't know what that is. But they didn't seem to want to know. They didn't ask me any question about how did I get those pictures, or there was no interest. I really think they're trying to sell their satellite, not their satellite, but their Santilli telescopes that they have mounted on satellites that are out in space. That's another picture of theirs, of that what they call an entity that is demonic. Oh, that upsets me that they think that way. Now, this is something, I've showed this before. This is a big orb that has these pockets in it with clusters of bubbles. I've explained about these bubbles before, how that I see them on my third eye, and they turn loose and kind of go into a big orb that I'm also seeing. And how that when I first looked at the orb that I see when I look at light, it was mostly black and white and shades of gray. But when these colorful bubbles started coming off of my third eye into the orb, it gave the orb color. And now the orbs are just so beautiful. Some of them are so full of color. It's astonishing. Now see the colors of these little bubbles here? How that they seem to be falling out of one of these little pockets. That, for all the world, that looks to me like they're just coming right out. And then this one looks like it was a bunch of colorful bubbles that filled up an orb that you see that was whiter. You know, had a crust here that looks white. And it's like they just filled it up till it burst asunder. Maybe these are thought bubbles that come from us. Maybe what we think has a physical look about it. I mean, my guess is as good as anybody's, I guess, on that. And we do think of thoughts in bubbles, don't we? A thought bubble. And see the little thought bubbles, if you want to call them that. Colorful bubbles. They're kind of on this orb. And they're on this one, which they also fall over the side. Like, it looks like paint dripping off the edges of this. Reminds me of that show with Robin Williams that's called What Dreams May Come, because the afterworld that he went to, supposedly, you know, in this film, was like living paint. Like he could just put his hands through water and it's like moving paint around. And here's some more of those bubbles on this one. I'll show you several. And on this one, and there's kind of sending a little tendril through it to the other side. And they also, this is one that's the whole orb is nothing but those little bubbles, and here's one right beside it that isn't. And here they seem to be on this one. That's some more of those little orbitals of the hydrogen, I believe. That's just not, that's an educated guess. I can't prove anything. And there's another picture of how they look sometimes. I know it has to be something. I'm not looking at something that has no meaning whatsoever. There's some explanation for it. More of the thought bubbles. Now this is just showing the little orb. As it comes out of the light, it starts moving by stretching, and it stretches itself into a bigger orb that goes into a third orb. And with my camera, I can make the orb go back and forth from this one to that one, from this one to that one. But on this day, when I took this picture, I had a lot of the violet light in it. And I don't know if you can see that here. I'm going to make it go up really close. But it has a matted look. There's little squares and little, it looks like the matted finish they put to certain pictures when you have a hard copy of a picture made. And these orbs, when they come out of the light, they're very fluid-like. And they move around and they fall over one another, like this one seems to be doing. And this one's moving by stretching and forming another orb on top. And, this is a picture I drew when I was trying to show what it looks like when I look into the light and I see this great big orb. And all kinds of activities going on within it. And this right here, this area I'm pointing to, I'm going to put my hand there. That right there is what I call my third eye, because I see this outside of my body when I'm looking at that light. And when my eyes close a little bit, it closes. When I open them a little bit more to let more light in, this opens. So it's in conjunction with my physical eye that those flaps move. And it's on those flaps, like I've shown here, that little pockets of bubbles, colorful bubbles form. And sometimes they turn loose and go out into the bigger orb. And then that's why I think the orb started having color in it. but I could be wrong about that. But before it was just black and white and gray until the colorful bubbles started coming into it and giving it all kinds of color. Maybe it's us who colors our world. And there's a band of those bubbles around this orb. And there's another band. It's like a belt around the orb. And there's another example of that. And this one seems to be covering most of this orb, these little bubble things. And they're just in so many of my pictures of orbs. I see these. And this is just a colorful orb. That's now when I look at the orbs with my camera, I can get many very colorful orbs. I have a big collection of them, and some of them are so beautiful. This is not my most beautiful one right here, but I have some that are gorgeous. Sometimes I think I need to put them all in a book and call it Paintings by Light, because light paints this. This has nothing to do with me. It's the light doing it. Okay, now this, I'm going to have to explain this. Let me show you this first. This is a little piece of glass. It was part of a chandelier light fixture. And I took them off and I used them to look at the light. And I was looking at the light with a LED light in the background and looking real close through this, but not exactly through it. I was looking at a shiny piece of light that shone on it in just one spot. I don't have a light on it now because I'm making this right now, so I didn't want a light to be in here. But when I brought it close to my eyes and looked through the shiny spot on it, I could see things that I can't take pictures of because I see a kind of a landscape bigger than what the pictures are. The pictures seem to zone in and get real close to things so you don't see the overall. But anyway, I took this thing and I stuck it in my mouth and got saliva on it. And then when I looked at it with the naked eye, not with my camera, I saw the saliva run down, like liquid will do, and it was full of little X's. They were just like swarming through it. I don't show how many there were. There was like maybe hundreds, or at least 100. And I thought, wow, little X's in my saliva. Gosh, what is this? Of course, saliva, even that is light, because everything's light. Everything's made of light. So I watched them, and the X's started morphing. And they morphed into these little curved line balls that I was showing you earlier that seemed to be coming out of that cocoon-looking one. They morphed into them. Then they morphed still further and went into other designs, but I can't hardly explain that, how they started looking. But at one point they looked just like this. They were the little curved line balls. And I've seen these little things in other people's orb pictures. So whatever is in space is in our saliva. And it's like maybe I was looking at something as tiny as DNA or something. I don't know. Oh, there's a picture of that. But there are just so many questions to ask about, when I'm looking at this. I wish I had someone answering me. But I do have a lot of questions about what am I seeing, and I have a lot of conjectures about what I think it could be. And when you get saliva on the glass, a lot of dark holes open up because of the wetness, and this is just one of them. I've got several pictures where the orb has about 4 or 5 of these dark holes in it. And that only happened after it got wet with my saliva. And I watched that as it started, because it was a liquid, it was kind of rushing down the side of the piece of glass. And a lot of the little curved line balls started swirling around and going into the dark hole of this, the dark center, kind of like it was like a black hole sucking in all the little balls. but the black hole with just my saliva caused that. So, you know, maybe water looks like black holes, I don't know. Everything I see, I just try to put two and two together as best I can. And I'm not telling you things I know for facts. I'm just telling you what it looks like to me. And I have an opinion because I take so many pictures of orbs that I'm seeing certain patterns over and over again. And here's some more of those things that I think are like the hydrogen orbital wave action. Everything moves. The Kabbalion said, nothing rests, everything moves. So if you see hydrogen, it's got an orbital movement. There's some more of the little bubbles. And see, all these colors seem to be moving, swirling around, like in a vortex. There's just so many things that I see in the orbs. Very hard to talk about and sound like a sane person because, well, this is just an unusual subject, not much known about it. Here's some more of the little things, because when I'm looking at the light, I look at a lot of parts of the orb that just are kind of drab looking, but then there'll be a really bright area, like this one right here. And I focus in on that bright area, and I see a patterned thing, like this one, and this over here, this part here, and like these. Sometimes I see these also with the naked eye when I'm looking at light. But when I'm looking at light with the naked eye, I can't make a still picture of it, so I only get a little brief glimpse of it for a little short while. And it does start straining my eye and start hurting my eye when I look at light too much. Okay, here's a character. That's what I call my friend in the light, and I've named him Harry because he reminded me of a little hairy spider, and he just drops down into an orb or comes in from the side or the bottom. I'll be looking at orbs and here comes this little character. I get him all the time. I've gotten one picture after another of him. But that's another subject, and I can dismiss the fact that, well, maybe this is something that's in the glass itself, because every piece of glass I use, Harry's there if I'm using that particular camera. He's always somewhere around. So it couldn't be that he's in the glass or he's in all the glass. So I rule that out. But then I know what I'm looking at. I see it in other ways besides what the camera shows you, in ways that I can't hardly describe. It's just like we're surrounded, we're walking around in a vast sea of different planes of light that are many, many patterns in it, all similar but not exactly alike, and beautiful. Sometimes it reminds me of a peacock's tail. And I took a few pictures to put in this album that were of light moving, showing you how it moves. The orb just stretches and curls and unfurls itself. Sometimes it'll stretch into a long ribbon. And here's some more of those little lined balls that are part of an orb. And then I think I just put together a bunch of other pictures of colorful orbs. I wanted to talk, and let me tell you about this. I went with my sister up in the mountains, and I took my camera and a piece of glass to get the orbs from. And I got her to stand in certain places while I positioned the orb that I would see to be next to her. And I kept missing her. And there she is, and I almost got her in this one. Now watch this next one. I got her right in the center of the orb. I would love to go with someone who wanted to pose and let me get a lot of pictures of them with orbs around them. And see, this orb has little circles in it, and as you can tell it's the orb because it has that telltale line around the edges of it. 2 or 3 lines that outline each orb. Now, some people think the orb is a vehicle for traveling in, and I think that there are little beings that travel orb-like in an orb-like vehicle. But the orb is also other functions. It might be that it also shows us what's in empty space. There she is again. We were up in the Ozark Mountains at our favorite place to be. Because we always went there as children. Our parents would take us up there and we'd camp out. Camp Albert Pike. But a really tragic thing happened up there. But this was after we were already grown. It happened just a few years ago. That a flash flood came through the camp at night. No one expected it. And it took the lives of several people. And it turned trees over, and it just really messed it up there. And ever since then, they've not reopened it. There's a little gravesite memorial for all the victims of that. It was really a sad thing, because that was a beautiful camp. Anyway, now a few more pictures of orbs that show little long strands that I think of when I think of string theory. I think, yeah, I do believe that everything is connected with little tiny invisible strings. Invisible to us, but maybe visible with this camera. Because it certainly seems to be full of little strands, colorful strands too, of string-like stuff. Okay, now I'm going to just say a little something about something that I've been looking into recently. It's called the Mandela Effect. I'm going to get on a good picture to do this. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's kind of exciting to me. It is. People have been finding that words in the Bible have changed. The King James Version at that. And you know, that's people's favorite version, the King James. And not only that, but products' names have changed. Lines in movies like Star Wars. Even in Snow White, an old Disney movie, where the queen goes up to the mirror and she says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of us all?" Only now, when you watch that movie, and it has changed in the movie, she says, "Magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of us all?" And there's other parts of movies like that, and there's other things that people are noticing, like the movie Interview with a Vampire is now Interview with the Vampire. And this one series of shows called Sex in the City is now Sex and the City. And it's, you know, it's not enough that these logos and themes, words from different movies have changed. It's also the Bible. The words in the King James Version have definitely changed. I'll give you one really good example. And it is putting the putting of new wine into old wineskins. Don't do that, because it will burst the wineskins and you'll lose the wineskin and the wine. Only when you look in the King James Version now, it says not to put new wine into old bottles. They didn't even have bottles in that day. And I know it said wineskins. If you say bottles, it changes the whole meaning, because it was talking about how wineskins, you know, they stretch, and you put new wine, which is still fermenting a little bit and expanding. And if you put it in an old wineskin that's already all stretched out as far as it'll go, it'll burst the wineskin. So you have to put the new wine into new wineskins, because those will stretch with the wine expanding. So it has a meaning when you say it as wineskins, but it has no meaning at all when you say it as bottles. But you can go to your King James Version of the Bible and look this chapter up. It's Matthew 9, verse 17. And it doesn't say wineskins anymore. It says bottles. And there's other scriptures where It says, if you, on the day of the Lord, don't go back in your house and get your stuff. It used to say possessions, but stuff wasn't even a word back then. And it says something about putting your money in the banks. They didn't have banks back then. And there's even one scripture that says that Jesus was telling the people to bring before him those that were against him and slay them before him. And I know Jesus never ordered anyone slayed. That means to kill them. That's now in the Bible. And instead of the lion laying with the lamb in Isaiah, it's the wolf and the lamb lying together. And you know the saying, judge not that you be not judged? No, wait a minute. That's what it says now. Judge not that ye be not judged. But it used to be, judge not lest thou be judged in the same manner you judge others. The word lest was in there. Not anymore. And in the Lord's Prayer, the one that's in Matthew, and a lot of people have memorized the Lord's Prayer, and the part that says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, is no longer there. I mean, the sentence is there, but they don't use the word trespass. They use the word debt. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, which is how they tell it in the Lord's Prayer in Luke. But in the Lord's Prayer that's in Matthew, it has always been trespass. Only no longer is it that. And there's another, the Psalms 46, that says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. That should be. And they had President Obama on the video I was watching. He was quoting this very verse. And this is how it should go. And this is how he said it. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Only now, that same Bible that he got his words from won't say it that way. It'll say the heathen. Something has happened that has changed, and that the church, the ones that do recognize that there's changes in the Bible, there's some who won't recognize it. They say, oh no, that could never happen. God's word is, is not something that kind of thing could happen to. So they deny it, and they really don't even hardly look or try to remember. But a lot of people have committed to memory these verses, and they remember it did not read that way. And now their Bibles are reading that way. They're King James versions. And one reason they know they can prove that it's the way they remember it is because you can find literature like Sunday school lessons or look it up in the Bible books about, not the Bible itself, but books that talk about scriptures in the Bible, and they'll find them in those referendums listed just the way that they remember. So they know they weren't wrong, but when they look at their Bible, sure enough, it's not that way anymore. And what could cause a change? What could it be? And I think they're thinking that what it is, it's the work of the devil. That he can change times and seasons and all kinds of things, and they see this as very, very bad. Part of what is going to come upon man in the last days. I don't see it that way, because I've never believed in that Armageddon stuff. I see it that I've read a lot of books, especially some of the Seth books by Jane Roberts, and our world has many dimensions. We have alternative realities, we have alternate selves. And I've always read about that and thought, well, yeah, okay, well, maybe that could be. But I've never had any proof of it. But I have always just sort of let it be in my mind that maybe there could be something to these parallel realities. And time differences, like in another reality, something that happened in this one didn't happen in that one, but almost everything in that other reality is like this one, except for a few changes here and there. So that's what I'm thinking it might be. And I'm excited about it, because this is something, definitely something that's happening. Be it good or be it bad, something is happening. And for ever so long it seems like nothing has been progressing, you know. But now this is something tangible. You can see it with your own physical eyes. Just look in your King James Version of the Bible. And if you don't know what scriptures to look up, just go to YouTube and type in the Mandela Effect, Mandela, and there'll be all kinds of videos where they give you all the scriptures and all the product names that have changed and the logos of, this one got me, J.C. Penney's. How do you spell J.C. Penney's? How does Penney's spell? P-E-N-N-Y. S, maybe a S on it. But now it's P-E-N-N-E-Y. Penney. Something like that. It doesn't look right. And it's not just J.C. Penney's. It's many other words, many other logos of products that we've used all our life. And I don't want to go into all of them here, but you will discover what they are if you research this, which you'll have to do that on your own. It's really easy to do because right now it's all over YouTube. People talking about it fearfully and people talking about it excitedly. And I'm one of the ones who are excited about it, because I don't think our reality is like set in stone. I think we are thoughts in the mind of God. And even in the Bible it says things can change in the twinkling of an eye. What can change that fast except a thought? And if we're thoughts, our thoughts can change if there's some motivating force to change it. And I don't see that being something evil. But I do see that Christians now would have to say, I can't trust every word in the Bible, because I can see that it changes. And they can obviously see that if they even look at this. But I've always thought not to worship the scriptures, but to worship God inside of yourself and to talk to God there and get your answers. Just go within. Don't think that your beliefs have to match the words of the scriptures in the written word, because you see, with this Mandela effect, we're finding out that that can change. That's never been a reliable source. The most reliable source, according to me, is to go within and ask God, your higher self, any question you want to ask. That's what I do. I've not been too fond of some of the things the Bible has said about the Lord God of the Old Testament. To me, he was a very vicious and bloodthirsty God. And I've read the Bible, and I remember, because I have read the Bible, this chapter about the wineskins, and how now it's bottles, and I see that it is, and I think, no, I didn't commit everything to memory, but I do remember that. And I remember the Lord's Prayer and several other things that have changed. And it's different now. So something is up. And I want to keep on the cutting edge of what it is. Okay, somebody's coming in the house. I'm going to end this video. This is the Dove Lady, over and out for now.